From Andrea Guolo in Italy, David Holtz in Brazil, and Don Oshman, our editor-in-chief in North America. It's time for another edition of the Sunday Night Week in Review Market Roundup presented by HideNet, where knowledge creates profits.
Good evening. It's time once again for the Sunday Night Week in Review brought to you by HideNet Publications. My name is Don Oshman, editor-in-chief and publisher of HideNet. Today is Sunday, the 21st of tonight, it's 21st of February 2016. David Holtz, who writes our Latin American report, reports in Novo Hamburgo today that Brazilian fresh green hides are stable. Argentine wet salted hides are stable as well. Brazilian wet blue, however, are down a few cents, which people had to take a few cents concession in order to close some business. Prices are now trading between $1.20 and $1.23 for 22 kilos and up. If they're heavier or something really special, they can get 5 or 10 cents, not a kilo, 5 or 10 cents a square foot more. That's all CFR. That's $1.20, $1.23 per square foot. Prices in Paraguay and Uruguay were also steady this week, and Latin prices generally were on hold during the Lunar New Year closings in China, which have come to an end this past week. In Europe, Andrea Guolo is back in Italy, his hometown, and he covered the MyPal and MyCam shows in Milan and said that the overall attendance was good and it ended on a positive vibe. One big surprise, but the Russians were back. Not like they used to be, but there were some Russians there and some business as well. A full report with pictures and details are in this week's European report. Next week he'll be covering Lineapel, which is probably more germane to the leather trade, and it could affect the markets and get a tone for the rest of the, maybe not the rest of the year, but at least well into the summer months and possibly fall. Then, of course, we'll have the APLF in Hong Kong. Well, I will be covering that for HideNet Publications. In the EU, cows were a little bit softer, but UK 36 and ups were steady between $1.35 and $1.40. Upward pressure on bulls, but the automotive industry seat makers held the line. But English sheep prices are incredibly low, almost down to zero, and still nobody wants them. I presume that'll change. North America this week, prices were generally steady, but there were some gains seen in Texas, some trader covering and shorting and going long as well, because these guys are going to start for the Far East to visit face-to-face with their customers, as many people will in the world in the coming weeks. It's only about 4 weeks now till 4 or 5 weeks before the APLF starts, and typically people who have hides to sell visit their customers in Asia before they get to the show, or even a little bit after, and they want to have some hides and inventory with them. That's a generalization, and it's not cast in stone. Wet blue Texas were steady at an $80, $81 CNF, which is $1 or more below the wet salted equivalents, which indicates there might be some pressure on American wet blue prices. Cow sector was quiet. Raw and wet blue sales were only export sales were only 365,800 this past week. That's a kill against a kill of about 550,000. So you get the idea. Fewer were sold than were produced. And there was a holiday week as well. One day was Packers were closed to some extent. It wasn't a major holiday. Slaughter and shipments surpassed sales, but that could be due to the Lunar New Year holidays. And a new study shows that over 80% of U.S. cattle come from feedlots, which means over 80% of U.S. hides have the best possible grain. We have a special report in this week's edition of the U.S. Week in Review covering selections, changes in various selections due to price disparity. In other words, there's a huge spread, maybe $15 between a Texas or a Colorado steer today and a heavy native or a butt branded steer. Very interesting reading and how the market's adjusted to that. That's it for tonight. Thank you for watching. We look forward to seeing you Sunday night, same place, same time. Thank you. If I could turn this off.